And before we can say yes to, whatever, the small things, right? It's I look at it as, what do I need in this relationship?
Sometimes you don't know what you need.
Well, this is where I would say that what you're saying, the things happen for a reason. Yeah. And when I was Janet too, yeah, absolutely, she did help me to understand what it is that I needed, right? Because I wasn't prepared for that at the moment. I thought it was maybe more of a want, or it was a nice add-on that came in addition to that ass, right? So, right? But the deeper part,
it was really a requirement.
It was really a requirement, right? It was a requirement,
and you had it as a nice to have.
Yes,
and you were still learning what is a mandatory and what's a nice to have, right? And that's the trick, right? And that's the trick.
I tell you, earlier in my relationship, we would have these little fights or whatever, and it was like this roller coaster. And I remember just saying to her, like, listen, I'm not into all that roller coaster. I can't be having these highs and lows all the time. Like, I said, I can't do all that. I said, I'm all right being right here, having a little bump here. We can go down a little bit and whatever. Maybe even go high, but I can't have so much fluctuations in that. And I said, to me, that's not what a relationship is about. Like, I can't be so mad at you that you want to beat me up, and then later on you want to. So we can. So I was like, I just need something that we can be all right with, because that conversation was a helpful understanding. Like, it can go smooth. Right. It doesn't have to be all this. Right. Let's have this out fight. Like, we have a fight for what?
Right. But you're saying something too that I think is important in a relationship where it's not dipping like dramatically, but for me, one of the things I realized is that I need a partner who I'm constantly moving up with, and it's on an incline where we're growing together, and there's change, right? Because it's definitely not like a stagnant thing. And I recall one of my earlier relationships where the person just wanted things like stable. They didn't want it to change whatsoever. You should be the person who you came in the relationship with. It's like, that's not true.
Yeah, you add kids to the mix, you change your lifestyle.
Right. Everything changes. And the truth is, even your list of needs changes. Correct. Right? What Anthony needed at 20 and what Anthony needs now at, good Lord, 50. It's not the same list, right? And the same thing with my wife. Is that her list? Yeah, exactly. You know what? This is gonna turn into a hot club in a hot minute.
Listen, I'm about to get my card now.
I'm already there, so I'm just like, I don't know what y'all talking about. I get it.
Yes. So enjoy that. But yeah,
there you go.
That is a good way to get that will only get you suplex. I think that Anthony needed at that age, I think that Anthony needs now are different. And same thing for my wife. And you have to be at a point where you can grow and adjust together. But the truth is, and I just can't stress this enough. And this will probably take the conversation in another direction. But the biggest factor in your life is your choice of a spouse. It really drives everything else that happens. For me, at least, I feel like it's the biggest determinant of your success or failure in your adult life is your choice of spouse. And this will go in a bad direction, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Is that I think the large part of the problem that we have in our community is lack of good choice making. I see, and I'm not going to get on a particular group. I'm just going to say I see people who pick poor spouse choices for themselves and then wonder why they're in the situation that they're in. And I say, I can't believe we're even having this discussion. You picked this person who was horrible. Not that they're a bad person, like they're the son of Jeffrey Dahmer or something. They simply are a poor choice for someone who's going to lead you to a successful life. I could have told you right away that this was a poor choice. And that's the reason why I think, this is one of, these Anthony opinions, look at the choice of spouses and look at the characteristics that are used to choose a spouse, and that leads to a lot of the problems that we have right now in our community.
I would agree, yet I would say something that Steve was saying is that we do need those experiences to understand what are the best choices, what are our needs. Because many folks will make a choice based on very surface needs, right? And so those are bad choices, yes, but also to make a choice in terms of life partner, right? And I'm going to use life partner because I don't necessarily say that everyone should be married. So if you decide to be married or in like a partnership where it's just going to be you and that person, however it is, you really do need to understand what your needs are, and that happens through experiences. And I would say, yeah, there are many people who are making poor choices because they don't understand what they need, right? From a spouse. Like I would say before, I didn't know that I needed a person who was going to be supportive. Right? I just thought physical attributes were the best things. Everything else, you just sort of, it just happened and it worked out.
Right.
But I would say if I were to like counsel someone on, like 3 or 4 main ingredients, one would be support. Love, yeah, that's kind of the thing that's, the glue to it all. And the other part was to be able to be a leader, because sometimes I get tired. I don't want to lead, right? I don't want to sit in the captain's chair every day, right? I just want to be like, I just want to be a first officer, right? or an omen or something, yeoman or whatever. And I'm like, that's all I want.
You good enough being the security officer?
And that's nice. It. And it's to be able to understand what I need, and that someone's going to be able to jump in and do that. And great communication.
Yeah. And it goes vice versa, right? So it's also you providing that to your partner and
yes.
it is and everything else. So I totally agree with you. I got a leader.
You do have a leader.
Oh my God.
Yes, you do.
You're good, huh? With that. So I agree with you. I think, I don't know. I think people, when you're at 16, 17 versus you're 50, what your needs are totally different.
Correct.
So,
agreed.
And I think at that age, you're getting your needs satisfied.
Touche.
So to me, like, and things happen, right? So sometimes people, unfortunately things happen and everything else. If you have a kid or whatever, like those things happen. It's just a course of what happens. And like I said, there's no blueprint. So there's no rule book about how this. So you figure out things how you go, and hopefully you're in a position where you can communicate, because that's key in this whole thing. So you mentioned the love, but a key aspect is how do you communicate with them so that way people can listen to what you're hearing or hear what you say, and you got to do the same thing and see where people come from.
Chicken bonefish.
Chicken bonefish. Yeah. So a lot of times, like even when I hear people speak, I try to hear sometimes the emotion behind what they say. So when they're angry, I'm like, wow, like, are they really angry, or are they just upset about a little something, or they just try to vent or whatever it is? But I hear the emotion, I can hear the sadness, or sometimes when people talk. And I think when you understand where people come from, then you can communicate a little more effectively versus somebody's yelling at me, but you don't understand why they yell at me, because maybe they were hurt by something I said or did, and now you're like, oh, you know what, maybe that did bother them. So then you can reflect on it, but until you're there, then the communication sort of breaks down. But
you've been on both sides of this.
Yeah. So I think right now, what's more important for me is finding somebody I like. Love will come. Love is the ebb and flow. But having someone that I can literally sit across the table from and like have a conversation with you and enjoy having a conversation, from everything from soup to nuts, that is far more pivotal to, oh my gosh, that passionate, yeah, cool. I can work with that, right? But having a conversation and actually like sitting down and wanting to relay my day and getting meaningful feedback and feeling supported is far more important than that, oh my gosh, I'm head over heels in love with you. I'm not going to say past that point, but I'm going to say that is less important to me
than it was
20. When I was in 20. Right? Me at 23, me at 27, me at 35. They're 3 different instances of the same person, and there is growth.
But don't you want that person you're with to grow with you through those things and learn?
True, but what I might need, so if I picked a partner at 23 versus picking a partner at 35, if she's not in the same headspace to grow in a similar direction, then I've just yoked myself to someone who's going to go in an opposite direction, and now I got papers on.
I don't know. I don't know all this here.
What do you mean?
I mean, I don't know if the age thing. I do think that the age carries some experience, but some people are a little more advanced than others, depending on how they were raised and how they
That's
think.
fine.
So I think that I'm not gonna throw a number out there that is inappropriate, because I think sometimes people got their stuff together. There's a few
Absolutely.
people that just have their stuff together, and they meet a partner that have their stuff together too, and they're going in the same direction. As long as they continue to go in that direction.
Yes, but I think what you're saying is the key part is that they have their
Their stuff
stuff
together.
which I look at as a need. I understand what I need, and there was I didn't know what specifically for me. I didn't know what I needed at 21 or 22, but definitely around 25, 26, I knew what I needed. The other part of it.
You keep talking.
Oh,
This is the other one.
The only part of it is that I didn't have the courage to say what I needed. And there's something that I've learned in a relationship, is that you also need courage to be like, to say, yes, we're gonna go apple picking. Yes, we need to put it between 9 and 1 because the game is there. I do recall in relationships, and I hear it as a therapist, I hear when folks are just like, I didn't say anything. And so, 12:30 comes around and we're fighting because I didn't have the courage to say what I needed in the relationship.
Right.
And that's something that I've come to appreciate within my relationship now. And every relationship is it's changing, it's developing. I have challenges in my relationship now, in my marriage now. Yet, I believe we have the courage to say the things that we need to say in my relationship now.
Yeah, it should be a safe environment, right? So you should be able to say what you feel, and no one can argue with someone's feelings, right? So that's one thing that's off limits. So
That's
is this
lesson
how
I
you
learned
feel?
late.
Yeah. Whatever you
That's a
feel.
lesson you learned late. you said?
Late, yes. Like I used to argue with how they felt. I was like, yeah, but why you feel that way? And I'm like, yeah. So that was a loser.
That's a losing battle. You can never win that.
Right. So I learned that lesson late.
Yeah.
Albeit too late, I'll admit that. But I learned that lesson late because I was like arguing on how they felt. And I was like, well, why do you feel that way? But see, here's a couple of things. One is you have to understand the origins of someone's pain, right? You think it's you, right? You did this here. And yes, you're the trigger for it here. But it could be something when they were a kid. It could be something when they were a teen. And if you don't have those conversations to kind of dig down to figure out what the root cause of it is, anything that you can do might tie back to that. And they themselves may not even know that it ties back. Yeah. All they know is you are the catalyst and you are the current
making
reason.
me feel this way.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I learned is that, and I'll stay in my program mode, is that the way that women file things and the way that men file things are not the same. So something that you'll say here will be seemingly to you unrelated to these other events because you filed those events this way. But she's filed these to you, which seem very disparate events under one thing. And I have this argument with my wife all the time when she says, this is exactly like that. And I'm looking at her like, that is nothing like this other event. But in her mind, it's exactly like it. One was a basketball game, one was a wedding, and one was a dinner at a restaurant. To me, these are totally different events, but because the emotion that they elicited was the same, she's filed them all the same way. So now, and you guys have been through this, where we start arguing about this, and she brings up these other things. I'm like, what does that have to do with this?
Correct.
Right?
I think that's every woman.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my point.
Beat that out.
No. But that's the point. But that's the point. But that's the point, is that the way that they file these things is different. Yeah. So the things that will trigger them to have this argument about this, it's not obvious to us as dudes. Right. It's just not obvious.
Yeah. Listen, right. I say get off that wheel. I'm like, we've been through this a bunch of times. I'm like, we gotta get off that wheel. Yeah.
Good luck with that. Does it work for you?
I'm trying.
Bringing back in the blueprint, you're absolutely right. The original blueprint makes a huge difference to understand where we have come from, and about formulating things regarding men, women, except I have expectations about women that just from my mom, right? Mm-hmm. In regard to, I think strong women, absolutely, it's got to be a strong woman, and that comes from a blueprint that I didn't realize until later, and why I was just like, oh, this ain't working.
So a mousy woman would have driven you crazy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have worked.
Wouldn't have worked.
Wouldn't have worked for
Wouldn't have worked. And in fact, and I would say that, let's say Tiffany, right?
Protect the guilty.
I would say Tiffany would say that she is a strong woman, but no.
It wasn't
strong in the context for me, because my mom stood up to her family of origin and my father's family of origin, and created her own family.
Nice.
Whereas Tiffany couldn't. And that, as good as Tiffany was in other areas, I realized later on when we split that was a key for me.
That was a key, and she was lacking it.
And she was lacking in that area. And so when we look at where people have come from, their blueprint and how they're executing those things, I think it's hugely important. And I think something you were saying, Steve, you were like, there's no blueprint. And I agree, there's no blueprint to absolutely follow that's going to make things happy.
All
right?
the time, doesn't work.
No. Yet there are
Elements
and plans out there that folks just don't look at.
Correct.
Right, and say, I could do it this way, I could do it that way, and again, we were saying before too that you don't have to experience everything.
Correct.
Every problem within a relationship.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go through everything over again and have the same type of feelings with someone. Like you need to learn from other people's mistakes. So I agree with you with that. So yeah.
Yeah, and that goes in relationships and everything else we're going to talk about in every episode.
Right.
That's just the truth of it.
So one of the things that I do outside of this is I mentor. And one of the things that I tell the boys is look at us as potential guideposts of things to do and things not to do. We're not in your same shoes, right? So we don't necessarily know the shoes you sit in, but we know where we are. And we know that we can look back to see where you were. And we can potentially see some of the pitfalls that you will have. So if nothing else, use this as potential guideposts to say, oh, that's quicksand. Like, brother so-and-so said that that's going to be quicksand because of these reasons. So maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't go there. So for me, I enjoy giving back because I didn't have someone talking to me, right? Like when I was 13 years old, there was a bunch of women, love you all, Stokely family, but there was a bunch of women that was literally just nattering in my ear, and it was either like men and ish or whatever. Right?
We have a whole separate episode for
Got
that.
you. But, that's the culture that we grew up with. Or, and so as a man living in that, your self-worth is kind of like, okay, cool, you had that? No, not really. Squish, 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 go over there. And so now that I have the opportunity to kind of guide young men in how to do certain things, if nothing else, I want to make sure that those young men have what I didn't have.